As an artist, and I've always kind of jumped around between things myself. Spar Cards, I was like, wow, this was probably like a big shift of like, I'm going to put all my energy in something that isn't music for a minute. I think it's really important not to not notice. And this has helped me hearing you talk it through is how, different people have different doorways to discovering who they are or why they're here. And sometimes it's not the doorway it's not the main thing they always did, but that was the doorway that led them there. So in many ways, music was the thing that led you where you are now, right?
100%,
And,
100%.
like, through all the hills and valleys of it, it's still something to really venerate just for guiding you to your soul's purpose now, right? So
100%. And I actually, for anyone who sees this, who also feels like they might be in sort of like a life between lives, and a lot of the people who end up clients of mine are often going through this, like, what's happening? It's just like a big transition that that's easy to sort of judge yourself for. But I will say, on the other side of it, one of the most like beautiful sort of understandings I have come away with is that, I really did feel, totally free as a musician and a performer. It was easy for me to do. It definitely felt like something else was kind of coming through me, and people would ask me a lot, like, are you channeling? Is that what you're doing? I'm like, I don't think so. I'm just kind of letting it happen, and it feels really good. And as I have, become really proficient in this, in this mode that is like the framework of how I work with clients now and help them heal through whatever physical, mental, emotional, spiritual issue, it feels the same. It feels like I am like part of the same electric circuit. It feels like it just feels you would know it too. You know what I mean? Whether it's through acting or music or performing, when you're in that flow and you're in that zone, to me, that is really, it's beautiful. And it brings me so much comfort to see that the connection is the same. It's just like the sort of the expression of it, or like the more knowledge that you can sort of bring in to in my mind, I feel like, be a little bit more laser focused. I can sort of look back and see that what I was doing as a musician was actually very similar, but it was a little bit more like sending fog out into a crowd and them having like a very private experience. And this is more like a laser beam and an experience where I can actually hold space with and for someone to help them like really specifically release the thing that is holding them back.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Tell us about Spar Cards.
Okay, so Spar Cards. Spar Cards is we call it a game, even though, granted, a lot of people are not going to really want to play this game. It's really it's a tool that helps people have hard conversations, and it was it was something that I needed for myself. As oftentimes these discoveries, happen. They happen sort of for us. My partner and I we were unable to really have a conversation without like really devolving into really painful. I mean, it's a surprise, really, because we really did always love and deeply respect each other, but something was happening when we were both, feeling stressed, unsure of the relationship, whatever it was. So we couldn't have a conversation. We were kind of blocked from therapy and counseling. We didn't have good insurance at the time. We couldn't agree on a counselor, and when we did, it would just be unbelievably expensive. So I really felt like all we need to do is be able to have a conversation. And so in one day, while he was across the country on a business trip, I just thought, like, what is really happening here? And what I saw was that if I were to ask him something like, did you do the laundry? Or do you want me to do the laundry? Or can we buy a new couch? Or are we going to move into it? Whatever it was, if it was a big thing or a small thing, it didn't matter. He was sort of subconsciously sending me like a flurry of negative response. And it was very specifically in this case coming in the form of like a micro eye roll. And in the moment, I was never really able to sort of clock it. But of course, subconsciously, I'm picking it up and I already feel aggressed. And then I jump on him. And then that's what escalation is. Then we started wounding each other. Then we would sort of like fall into distraction, which usually meant a super long fight, like yelling at each other for hours on end. And this could go like through, the night. We could be up until 4 a.m. just yelling about like nothing. And of course, once you get there, you can yell about the thing that you just said like 30 minutes ago and get totally stuck on that, right? So I started just dissecting this in my mind, and I saw our devastating fight cycle: trigger, escalation, wounding, distract. And then it just goes wound, distract, wound, distract, wound, distract. So I was like, okay, well, what I see is that we're both triggered right off the bat. I don't know what is going on with him, but maybe it doesn't matter. And so I just thought we just need like, we need like a yellow card. We need just a thing that allows us both to know, oh, it's no big deal. Just slow down, take a breath, slow down. Because I had eventually sort of tried, because I could catch that behavior. I could catch that sort of microaggression, but you can't point at it. You can't say anything about it. You can't say, even lovingly and gently, you can't be like, you just rolled your eyes at me. Like, should we talk about this? It doesn't work. Like, the voice is 99% of the problem, right? So I thought, if we can just take all of the voice out of the equation, then maybe we can actually de-escalate before we get to needless wounding and distraction. And then nothing gets done in our relationship, in our conversation. So that was really where it began. And it was like just like pulling on a thread, and all of these other thoughts sort of came out behind it. And it was like, well, I don't want that to be the only thing between us. We should have a pink card that's just like an expression of like, I accept you, I love you, right? Knowing that my boyfriend happened to be a person who didn't like saying the words, I love you. And he didn't even really like it when I would say them. It just wasn't the way he experienced love. It wasn't the way he gave it, and he wasn't the way he received it. Of course, I'm all words, as you can tell right now. And so I thought that could be actually really helpful. And then I thought, well, we need another card for when we disagree, so that we can just stop each other in the moment. And of course, I didn't really understand the nuance of it at the time. But after I had made the 4 cards, the 4th card being the card of agreement, which I thought was just like an interesting foil to the card of disagreement. And we had our first, I used to call it good fight back then. We had our first setup with Spar Cards, and it worked. It worked amazingly well. And then I just put it away and I didn't think about it. I was a musician. I had a lot of work to do. I also had my own sort of illness and sickness and suffering that I was also dealing with and trying to find my way through. And 2.5 years later, my bandmate was dying, someone I deeply loved. And I saw that he and his mom were having the same issue. Obviously, they loved each other. He was clearly going to die soon, and they needed help clearing this space between them. And palliative care wasn't doing it, and hospice wasn't doing it. Nobody was helping them. And so I thought, you know what? I should give them Spar Cards. So I made them a set. And by then I had been studying a lot and working with my own incurable mental illness. which was chronic depression and OCD. And having stepped away and like looking at them again, I just saw how simple it was and how profoundly effective it was, why it was so effective. And so I facilitated my friend's last conversation with his mom, and that was kind of the moment after his death when I realized, like, I think I'm supposed to give people this thing so that they can help themselves, so that they have a tool. So that's how Spar Cards was created.
Wow. God, it's such a meaningful and caring thing to have, like, spent your 5 years developing, however long it took, like, to take that time. It's something that is for others. It's for yourself, yes, but that it has this vast aspiration sort of imbued in it is really beautiful, of just like finding a way to talk about those things that are really difficult to talk about. LaunchLeft, I've never been able to do an elevator pitch, but can you do a kind of elevator pitch of what they are? So if someone's like, okay, but in a nutshell, how does it work, or what does it look like?
Okay, so it's a philosophy. It's a framework for you to have the hard conversation that you keep avoiding. What's important about this is that you have every right to take your time if you're avoiding something that's going to be painful. What I'm helping people learn, what I'm helping people understand, is that they can face this fear. And the fear is almost always the same, right? Like, I am afraid to tell this person the way I really feel, either because they're going to reject me or because I'll feel ashamed, or both. And Spar Cards basically teaches you how to have the somatic version of a hard conversation. So it's a body practice more than anything. It is not about someone being right and someone being wrong. It's about, how can I train my body, teach my body, and train my partner to understand my threshold for pain? How can I train my body to live through this very challenging and painful experience that I believe I'm right, and that my partner or best friend or roommate or mom or dad also believes they are right? That, can I make enough space and calm in my body to hold this experience of a split reality, of me and someone I love living in alternate realities, which is really what's happening when you're in a fight with someone a lot of the time. So that is what the philosophy teaches, and the framework itself comes with a step-by-step guide in order to do this on your own, completely on your own, so that I'm not teaching people how to do this anymore, which is what I was doing for a few years. And it's actually better. It's actually better that people get the material on their own, because people would a lot of the time sort of like use me a little bit as like a way to sort of keep themselves accountable. And so if two people get Spar Cards, if someone gives it to their partner as a gift and they both agree to do it, and they're going to do it, it's totally self-directed, totally self-motivated. The possibility of a transformation to occur in just one conversation, in just one use, is huge, really huge. As long as you follow the rules and really review the rules of engagement and allow yourself to have a totally new kind of fight. It's really more about, can I sit in the experience of these two opposing truths and still respect this person and still appreciate them for who they are? And my job is not to bend their will to mine, ever. It is simply to allow the space for two people to exist in their authenticity. And that's really that's the end game for Spar Cards, is that it's two people who end up able not just to inhabit their authentic self, but to hear their authentic self. And that is, it's a big bait and switch, because really what it is the transformative art of conflict, right? It's in many ways, it's its own spiritual path, because when you sit across from someone who is important enough to lie to, right? Someone who's important enough to hide from, and you show them who you are with the ability to manage the conflict feeling in your body, you then are opening up this sort of channel within yourself. You then get to be, the person who is receiving this information for themselves. So really what it does is it creates pretty rapid relationship clarity, which creates pretty rapid personal clarity. And one of the best side effects, byproducts of using Spar Cards, is that when you use it properly, when you really understand how to use it, your threshold for your partner's pain grows very quickly. For most people, it does not take that long. It's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 conversations. I'm not talking about 6 to 12 months of couples counseling. I'm saying when you find yourself able to sit face to face, your own accountability, totally self-directed, and receive each other with openness and authenticity, this threshold for pain, where it used to be like this, and every time you say this, I get set off, or whatever it is, it just gets bigger and bigger. So you just become less afraid of your partner's big feelings, and in general, more resilient in your relationship, in your home, in whatever partnership you're working with, which allows you to be more resilient in the world. You can find Spar Cards at spar-cards.com. And, look, I feel very dedicated to this, as you can probably tell. So you can, if you input your email address, you can get a download of it immediately. If you are in a really rough place and you need the tools right now, they're available to you right away. If you want the product to be mailed to you, you can order a copy. And, I really want people who are interested in this kind of thing and interested in not seeing the world as right and wrong, but more sort of exploring the potential of just what happens in the world when we let people be who they are without shame, without destruction, and without needing to make them who we are in order to feel comfortable. This is not an easy time to believe those things. So if this resonates, then I invite you to join the Spar Cards community on Instagram, where hopefully we can start having these conversations. That is really part of my mission here.
Leah Siegel, thank you for sharing and for creating something like this. I'm going to go order my copy right now.
Yes. Awesome. I'm so grateful for you, Rain. Thank you for making this platform for people like me, and everyone else, and obviously all the great musicians that you've been platforming. And thanks for continuing to make such beautiful music and do such incredible things in the world. I'm watching you and appreciating you always. So thank you.